Hey, everybody, welcome back to another podcast with me, your host, Warren Werbitt, the guy who loves print almost more than anyone else. Today, we have a returning guest. And why a returning guest? Because we have Al Canicol from the Kennickell Group. Welcome.
Hey, glad to be here, Warren.
I'm even happier you're here. So we're sitting with a guy right now who I always make age jokes, but if only we were as on top of things at his age as he is, unbelievable. So a couple things we're going to talk about today. You are one of the more forward thinkers, I think, in AI from the minute they announced AI. Excuse me. And then we'll talk about a latest installation that you did and what you're doing to make it right.
Sounds great.
Cool. Excuse me. So AI, when AI came out, you were all over it. You were learning it yourself by watching YouTube videos, which you suggested to everybody. You ran to see the conference Imagine AI live twice. It didn't take anybody to convince you. Actually, you were asking about it before it was even available. Why are you so into AI?
You know, I was fortunate enough, I was at a meeting, probably in the early stages of AI, before the AI Imagine Alive conferences. It was actually an IPM meeting in Singapore. And they brought in somebody to speak about AI. And this was several years ago when it really wasn't mainstream. But I was listening to what the guys were talking about. We had somebody from like the head of marketing worldwide for HP was talking about how they were using AI. So I got sort of a wake-up call before really most everybody else did. And then I just started doing the YouTube videos, things like that. And, you know, it's like this. If you use something and it pays off, you keep using it. It's just like when I was learning how to be a sales guy, and I would watch Zig Ziglar videos or tapes. I'd go out and try it the very next day on sales calls. These things would work. So I said, man, I'm going to get more and more of this, these sales tapes and get better and better. And AI worked the same way. I got my toe in a little bit, did a few things. It worked. Then it just started making my life easier. Then it just got to a point where there was almost nothing AI couldn't help me be better at. So when it works, you do it. And I tell you, I think the people that are not using AI just haven't given it enough of a try to see what it could do for them. Because I can tell you stories, Warren, of things I'm doing with AI that would cost me thousands of dollars if I was using attorneys or CPAs.
Okay, tell us stories. I like those stories.
All right. First of all, let me say this. I may have mentioned this before, but I have an AI platform called Boodlebox, BOODLEBOX.ai. And I pay $20 a seat per month. With that, I get the paid version of ChatGPT, but I also get, hundreds of other apps and or other bots. So what I can do is, and first of all, it has also an information block. And in the information block, I can tell it everything about my company. I can constantly drop in information that, things about what equipment I have and all that. And instantly, all of the hundreds of bots that I'm accessing through Boodlebox have all the information on me. Everything about, the family, what our philosophy is. And I just keep adding stuff. Like I dropped in that I, got a new piece of equipment. And now when I talk to any of my bots, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, they all have the background information. And, what I can do is I can ask Perplexity a question. If it's something that you need to have an AI search the internet, I usually use Perplexity or Gemini from Google. And, I ask it the question, and then I just click on the icon for the AI app, and I can change it to anything else. So I might go Perplexity, then I might go to Gemini, and I say, what do you think of the answer I just got? And then that bot jumps into the conversation. I don't have to retype the question. It just says, I think that's very good information, but I would add, and then it just puts more information out there. But I'll tell you one thing I did that was really interesting. And by the way, when you're with Boodlebox, you can put information like your financials into AI and it's secure. But I put in one of my, I guess it was probably my August P&L, and I said, I'm looking for some analysis. And I gave it, several, directions I wanted to go and what I wanted to kind of look for. In 3 seconds, it gave me a report that if I had gone to my CPA and asked for the same thing, my CPA probably would have charged more than $5,000. They would have charged me at least $7,500, and it would have taken probably a week and a half.
If not a month.
And yeah, if not a month. And this took place in 3 seconds. So, I mean, it's just, I just would tell you, if you got anybody watching right now that really hasn't gotten all in, just do it. Just start playing around with it. Trust me, it'll pay off for you.
So first of all, oh my God, 110%. Since it came out, it sits open on my desk actually. I have ChatGPT 5 because for work with a couple other people, but I also have, since the day we first spoke about it, Boodlebox, which is pretty amazing. My favorite thing on Boodlebox, by the way, is the prompt.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's everyone's biggest problem. If you don't know how to prompt or tell the story well enough, you don't get back you don't get back the best information. The other thing is, someone once said to me, when you're using it and you produce something, when it's done, ask it, are you sure? And it kind of forces it to go back and rethink it, because when you put it in one bot to another, you get different answers and different responses. And then it makes you go, which one should I take, or which one's more accurate? But if you put them through all of them, it vets all the info, and then you pick the one you like. But So I'll give you a crazier thing with ChatGPT, and it's not print related, it's fishing related. We're out in crazy cold weather, end of November, and we're fishing at night in the boat. And my friend says, where do you think we should go? And I went, I don't know, it's freezing. We're good where we are. Like, we know the fish come through here. He went into chat and he said, we're fishing on this lake. This is the time of year. This is the temperature. And it somehow knew the lake and told us where about to go on the lake.
That's amazing.
Close to where the two currents are reaching, where there's a drop off, where the water's at 12 feet. And we were sitting there going, this is crazy, because in the world of fishing, we don't talk, to strangers about where we fish.
Right.
And if I do, I lie. And I think the AI is going to take that away. But it's never mind. It was also, what lures should we use? And it recommended the lures for the weather and the time of year. Blown away.
It's remarkable. I've got ChatGPT on my phone, and I can just hit the button, and if I'm driving down the road or whatever, I just verbally ask it questions and it answers me out loud. And it just, even simple things like, hey, my oil light just came on. This is the kind of car I got. How long do I have before I got to put some more oil in there? Or whatever. You can ask it anything, and it just gives you great answers. So it's indispensable.
When we spoke last time, and a few times we spoke, I put some information into AI. I pay, by the way, anyone listening, don't be cheap. If you want 5 agents, get 5, but pay the $20. Don't go with the free. If you go with the free, it's not as powerful, and you're helping it to learn everything there is out there. When you pay for it, it's self-contained and it's yours. But so I don't follow it, but I always go in before I have a guest on the podcast, and I put in for questions and stuff. And I don't follow it because I can't follow it after I have it, but it's always fun to do and gives me a thought. But when I put it in, this is what came. It started off with, oh, buddy, let's arm you with some weapon grade questions. They'll get Al talking, get you great clips, keep the episode moving with that Warren energy. Here's your curated list of killer questions. And it's like, it says in there, like, you got a great guest. He's energetic. He talks. And I'm like, oh my God. So you have to. I use it for all my email to make sure that it goes out sounding right. And everyone has to remember, AI is a tool. It is not the God sent. It is not going to. If you cut and paste, you're done. Right? It'll.
Hey, did we talk about Notebook last time?
We touched on it briefly, but go ahead. Notebook's a great.
All right. When I was at OpenAI, at the end of the conference, they had people up there, these experts, and one of the questions was, what is the best new AI tool you've seen this year? And like 4 out of 7 said Notebook. And I tell you, here's how people are using Notebook. You can, I give you 2 or 3 examples. One example was, I had AI write a case study on a project we did where we did in-store branding for 1,000 stores. I had it write, it wrote me a great case study. I then took the case study and I put it in the Notebook. And I said, turn this into a podcast. So then you ended up with a man and a woman talking about the remarkable job that the Kennickell Group did on this project. And, and then that became something I could use and post different places where you actually have what sounds like a very professional podcast talking about you. But here's what a lot of people are doing with it. A lot of people are looking at technical information, anything they're trying to learn, and they drop it into Notebook, and they can ask Notebook to turn it into a podcast where you can explain to me what this is all about. And you can even jump into the podcast and ask them questions, and they will answer you. So Notebook is probably, it's an incredible learning tool. In fact, there's a guy named Sean Olds who's a master at all this stuff. Every morning when he gets technical information, he puts it into Notebook, and then he goes to the gym and works out, and he listens to the podcast explanation every morning. And it's just a way to get complicated subjects explained to you in a good way. So Notebook is something, it's not on Boodlebox, but you can get it outside of there. And I highly recommend people look into Notebook.
Oh, no, I would agree with you. It's amazing. First of all of this stuff is great because so much out there is filled with, I'll just say, content. And to read it all, to get what you need, it's a waste of time, really, for a lot of it, right? My favorite is taking something and putting it in and asking it to summarize it for me and pull out all the good points and leave out all the fluff. So you could take a 32-page document and come up with 4 solid pages of what the whole paper is about. I got a better one for you. And I don't know if you did this. I hope you did. But I took a contract from one of the OEMs and I put it through AI saying, I'm considering buying this piece of equipment. This is the OEM contract. In essence, it came back to me and it said, don't sign it. Because in the contract, there's really nothing that protects the buyer. Everything is slightly slanted or heavily slanted to cover the OEM's back. So even if you have problems because the machine itself, they're not giving you anything for it. It's all on your shoulders.
Yeah, every time I get a contract now, I wouldn't do it on like if I was selling a business or something like that. But everything else, I drop the contracts in there and say, hey, give me the things I need to really be aware of in this contract. And it always comes back and says, this is a little unusual here, but that's a good way to just make sure you got a legal mind looking over your shoulder.
Well, I had first of all, you need an NDA. You could make your own. You could say $1,500.
Yeah.
Right. I had a proposal from someone I was looking at. I took it, I put it into chat, and in 7 seconds, because it said thinking on it, it came back, and I had prompted it to tell me what was good for me, what was bad for me, what I should look out for. What was the catch? And oh my God, it came back. It was unbelievable. And I was able to go back to the person with it to discuss those things. But I say $1,500 minimum, having the lawyer read it. Now, at the end of the day, I will end up back with the lawyer because it has to be penned and you want to be sure. But there's all that, there's the cost of him reading it. And then it's the time that you wait for legal to get back to you just because they're busy.
Yeah.
And we're not their, I'm not their priority. I don't know about some others, they might be, but I am certainly not.
Hey, let me mention one other thing I'm doing that I've got two printer buddies of mine, and we have a scheduled meeting on the first Wednesday of every month. And the purpose of that meeting is simply to go over everything we have done or learned about AI in the previous month. Because if you got three people who are really trying to take advantage of everything they can with AI, and then they share it with each other, that's much better than just you alone. So, having a group of people that you can get there and say, okay, let me tell you what we did this month. And, it's worked out really well because everybody there wants to share, and we're actually sharing things that maybe are more beneficial to a printing company just because we all do the same thing for a living.
Yeah, no.
So
it's
if
actually,
you got friends, do it.
Well, as you're talking, I'm thinking it's exactly a print peer group, but focused on AI.
Yeah,
right.
It really is.
I've always been part of a peer group. You've always been part of a peer group. I don't know how most printers are not part of peer groups, because who else is going to understand us other than other printers?
You're right.
I mean,
absolutely.
When I talk to friends, they don't even want to listen to what I have to say. It's just so not interesting versus what some of them do, be it real estate or whatnot, right? We're just making things. So it's great. Are your customers using AI?
I don't really know. I would assume that the smart ones are, but we really don't have. I don't really have conversations with clients about AI unless they happen to be friends of mine as well. And then, I talk to anybody and everybody about AI because I'm trying to help folks out. But in the course of everyday business, I'm sure some are. It's like anything else. There is a certain segment of the population that gets it and is using it. There's certain people that just hope it passes them by and they can get by without having to learn something new. And I feel sorry for those folks.
Well, unfortunately, that's going to be probably one of their worst mistakes today. I saw something yesterday that came out, a report that said that at the moment right now, about 11.3% of all jobs could be eliminated.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, it's going to be it's really going to be dramatic and more. And I'm trying to figure out. See, I look at what we do in the printing industry, and I think, okay, well, AI is not going to replace printing, but I look at it like this. I think, well, who of my big clients make or provide a particular service that may go away because of AI? So I worry about how many of my good clients might no longer be good clients because their industry or what they do was replaced by AI. I mean, it's going to happen. And I keep looking at like my biggest clients and go, I think they're pretty safe, but those guys over there may not be. I mean, if you're in the knowledge business, you got a lot to worry about.
Oh, listen, knowledge, systems, writing, right? Creative. Now, actually, I will say to you, I just built this whole website, printwhisper.shop, which everyone hopefully knows about. If they don't, you don't now. I built the whole thing myself, which is above my pay grade in general. Shopify said, oh, they could build a site in 5 minutes. Well, I spent I spent 100 hours, maybe because I have 175 designs up there, but I was using Shopify's AI, where I was able to do all of the written descriptions, all of the meta tags, everything and anything. And then when I had to connect the Google, the Instagram, and all that back end, I was asking it and it was directing me. And I'm like, at the end, I was like, oh my God, I just learned a whole lot of new stuff that never in my life have I thought that I would have learned now. Right.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have the AI, I'd still be sitting here twiddling my thumbs. The writing of the 175 descriptions probably would have cost me $4,000
Yeah.
and taken me forever, and probably would have had a lot more errors because I would have been responsible for approving it and reading it. And I'm not a proofreader.
Yeah.
So it
Hey,
just made it really
let me,
easy.
looking at your shirt, I might want to transition into some embellishments, but I want to start with an AI story about it.
Please do.
So we upgraded our equipment, and we now have the ability to do jet varnish, but also foil, and we could do it on a sheet that's a little over 20 inches by 40,
Wow.
which is significantly bigger than what I had when I had a MGI 3600. But when you look at what a lot of these companies put out that are selling these machines, they'll show you a picture of like a lizard, and they'll have multicolors all over it, or you see some crazy images that lend themselves to being to do foils and things like that with it that will really blow your mind. But in the stuff that printers print, we rarely have those types of images in our brochures. So what I did is I went to AI, I went to Perplexity, because once again it can look at the internet. It now knew what machine I had, and I said, I need to learn how to be able to take photographs of, like, we print for the marine industry, aircraft industry, the golf industry, hospitality. I say I gotta be able to. I want to know how I can embellish photographs of, say, buildings, of the water, the sky, a plane flying through the air. And it gave me such intricate details on, like, for instance, in the water, it told me, like, where the waves are breaking, you might want to use a thicker coat of varnish, but behind that, a lighter coat of varnish, or, just the highlights. But it went into great detail. And so I sent that to my design team, and I said, let's work some of this stuff in. So we're back here right now, experimenting with all that kind of stuff. But I got to tell you, what AI told me was very detailed. It wasn't, you could try this, you could try that. No, it got into the weeds. And then I just changed he clicked on the Perplexity app and changed it to Gemini, and I said, what do you have to add? And it added a few things. And then I switched over to ChatGPT, and I think ChatGPT looked and said, okay, all the technical information is already been there. So it got into more of a how to market it kind of stuff. So it jumped into the conversation, and so I ended up with I don't know, 6-7 pages of information, and I come in on Saturdays to do that kind of stuff, and I left the office on Saturday with the feeling that I could not wait till Monday.
Oh my gosh. That, by the way, that happens to me all the time. I sit down, I just start a couple little things, and then I get excited, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be at dinner an hour ago. Shit. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't end. I have the same thing, Gemini, in the car. I ask it a fishing question, and I'm driving somewhere. In 45 minutes, I'm conversing with Gemini, and my phone's ringing. Screw that. I'm having a better conversation.
I'll tell you this, Warren. We've all been through a lot in the last 5 years with COVID, supply chain crisis, and I can tell you that during the COVID and the supply chain crisis years, I really wasn't having that much fun. It was sort of like, just managing a disaster. I'm instead of having $100,000 of paper on my floor, I now had to have 750,000 because if something became available, I just felt like I had to buy it, and that wasn't fun. But with the advent of our high-speed inkjet, and then working in conjunction with embellishments, and then our major upgrade in embellishments, I'm having a tremendous amount of fun. I mean, I don't say, gee, I wish it was Friday. I go, hey, it's only Thursday. I got another whole day. I mean, because we're back. I mean, right now we're back there doing all sorts of testing, running experimental jobs, things like that. And I really had an epiphany, and I'm just having a blast. And what we've done is we said everything has to happen. All the stuff, the promotional material we're going to put in the mail, our client list, everything has to hit the client's desk on January the 5th, which is the first work day in the new year, basically the first Monday of the new year. And we are just pushing, and we are going into 2026 with a tremendous amount of optimism and excitement.
I'm sitting here, my cheeks are hurting. They're hurting because I'm holding them together and I'm smiling. It is so exciting to hear you talk like that with your excitement on your side and your drive to want to get this done, because it seems like you've been given a new life in print, right? And you've seen a lot. You guys are fourth generation print company now. So you've seen, if I go back and talk about Ruby Lipton stripping, young people might think, I shouldn't be talking about that on the air. But, we've seen a lot of stuff. And then to see people on the top end of our industry, to want to just dive in and go. Everyone should be watching this podcast when it comes out. Every owner should watch it, because then you could see and listen to the excitement. And people, if you have owners that don't seem so excited and you're listening, you should have them watch this, because they should be this excited for you. Your employees, as the team leader, your employees must be super stoked that they got a guy like you who just keeps buying new stuff, new technology, and you're not just buying it and walking away. You are in it and on it and working with them.
Hey, we were back there today running some tests. And really, when I say test, we're taking jobs, either current live jobs or jobs that we have run in the past that we think might lend themselves to some pretty good embellishments. And we're back there. And what's fantastic about our equipment now is we can experiment on the fly. Meaning, if we're running a job, I would say, let's put this in gold and let's varnish this and let's do that. And you don't have to go back to the prep department. My operator can make those changes right there. So when we say, let's try this, I don't have to wait until tomorrow to see what it looked like. I'll know what it looked like in 10 minutes. But what was happening is that several other people in the company were back there, and they kept popping in to see what was going to pop, we were going to do next. And everybody was there excited about seeing this. I had, one of my guy that runs my bindery, he said to me, wait till the people out there understand you got this piece of equipment. I mean, they're looking at it going, holy cow. But yeah, it's an exciting time, and everybody's back there gathered around, just marveling at what we can do. So we're all having a good time.
I think going into 2026 with excitement is off the charts. You said it. We have had the last 5 years have been rough. There's people who mentally haven't even recovered from COVID, from either working alone or just everything we went through. And then the last year of tariffs and everybody's own grievances and aggravations at home. Life is pretty heavy these days in general, for the majority of people, right?
Yeah.
So the excitement and all that, oh my God. I wish there was more companies going into the new year like that. So I've got a bunch of questions.
Okay.
ask what you want, answer what you want, don't answer what you don't want. I just want to get a little educational for, for the printers, because at the end of the day, I am a printer. I don't really care about OEMs. We need them. We have good relationships with them, but I'm here to look out for my fellow printers' money, because it's our money. So when you go to look at a machine like that, and you get a price, what do you negotiate, or how do you negotiate? I'm not asking you how much you got off, because that's
Yeah.
your business, but what can somebody learn from what you did, to poke the bear to make things happen?
When I was, this was a kind of how I got into this. All right. So when I first bought my KM1, Konica Minolta made me a deal I couldn't refuse on the 3600 MGI. All right. They both came in together, and but my focus was really much more on the KM1 than the MGI. All right. And I want to touch on that again in a minute. But when we're talking about negotiating, so what I tried to do was I tried to get Konica to upgrade my MGI. I wanted to add iFoil to it, but understand this machine only has a width of 14 inches, the one I had back there. And what ended up happening, and actually I asked them for a price, and I said, look, because I've helped them sell some machines and stuff, and I to upgrade to the foil, I tried to get them down, and I just couldn't really make anything happen there. All right, but a friend of mine who had just sold his business, and he sold he's in a big city in the South. He sold his company, and he sold all the equipment and everything else, with the exception, and I'll say it's an MGI, with the exception of that. And he called me up and said, hey, I've sold my business, and I'd like to sell this. And at first I didn't call him back, honestly, because I was just really busy at the time.
Only because you call everybody back.
Yeah, I do call him back. But so then he called and left another message, and then I called him back, and so I really bought it from him and not an OEM. And, he gave me a really good deal. And now I look back and I think, what was I thinking not calling this guy back the very second he called me the first time? Because this is one of the more game-changing pieces of equipment I've ever brought in. But, I'm negotiating on a few things right now. I'm looking to get a new inserter. We picked up a lot more mailing business, so I got to upgrade there. And I'm not going to tell you that I have any better way of negotiating. What I'll say is they'll give me a price, and I'll say, well, how about this? And I just go once, because I'm not really going to, I'm not one of these guys that's going to beat everybody up on the price, because, I don't want my customers to do that with me either.
Right. I know. I believe
so. I really don't get into the weeds of negotiating, because you get right down to it. And by the way, when I buy a piece of equipment, if I'm not going to pay cash for it, if I'm going to finance it, I don't know how it is in Canada, but let me tell you how it is in the U.S. I can, when I bought my KM1, I leased it through Konica Minolta's leasing group. No one even asked me for a financial statement. But if and you're talking something well over $1 million. But if I go to a bank and borrow $100,000 for something, whatever it might be, for a piece of equipment, I mean, they want all the numbers, but then they're going to every year they're going to come in there and they're going to act like they got to make sure that I can pay back that $100,000 and the hassles they put you through. So almost all of us now, if I, like with this stitcher, with this inserter I'm going to be buying, I will lease that through the company that's selling it to me. Not going to screw around with banks. So I guess going back to, maybe I'm rambling a bit here, but we don't really beat people up. We expect them to give us a pretty good price. I might go back with one counter, but never. I'm not going to. Whatever they come back with, I usually take it almost 100% of the time.
Okay, well, you didn't answer that question well for me.
I'm just not good at that.
Yeah, no,
I'm
get
good
like,
at I'm not good at negotiating pricing.
No, but like, do you watch the end of the quarter or the end of the year? Do you know?
Oh yes, no, absolutely no. You're 100% right. The best time to buy is at the end of a quarter or the end of the year, because these sales guys, they got to make their number, and you can get. I mean, I would say if you're buying at the end of the year or the end of the quarter, you might get an extra 10 to 15% off, because they want to make the deal, and they'll tell you. Most of them will tell you, hey, it's the end of the quarter. I need to sell some stuff, so I'm going to give you an unbelievable price. Because normally, Warren, as you know, we usually have a pretty good idea what something's going to cost, but when we go into the deal, because we've got friends that have bought some of the same equipment. Mm-hmm. So if I'm expecting to pay 1.6, and I'm thinking that's probably where it's going to be, and then they come in at 1.3. I'm thinking, yeah, that makes a big difference. So yeah, it's important to look at the calendar when you're buying.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I remember when I bought with a Xerox, and again, financing through Xerox, HP, all of those guys is easy because they're not really looking at the covenants and they don't really care. As long as the payments come in, that's all that they're counting on, because they don't want to come in and they don't want to do any of that stuff. But I remember when I bought a Xerox machine, and actually I think it was, anyway, whatever month it was coming to the end of their quarter or year, and 5 days before the end of the quarter and the install was going, and the end of the month ended on a Friday, they threw $25,000 at me to make sure that I can get a printed sheet out by Friday at midnight.
Yeah.
Which was nice, but it was concerning that they had this to just give me at the end and weren't willing to better, offer me the best price to run my business up front. So that's when I get a little, what are they holding back? And maybe I should have it, right? Or you're negotiating a better service agreement or longer hours for service, or there's always room to ask. Even click charges. Some companies, when you're buying and you have your lease and you have your machine and your maintenance payment, you want to make sure that the maintenance payment is not tied into the monthly payment, so that if you get out of your machine early and you owe 18 months, they're not charging you for 18 months of service in there also, because there's no service to do.
Yeah.
So, because when we sign something, we're in for 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And chances are the person you're dealing with will be somewhere in another company.
Hey, and speaking of buying equipment, Warren, I'm going to make an offer to your audience. My MGI 3600, we did great things with that device. We really did. And because my guys knew how to run that, when they came in to train us on the upgrade, we picked it up very, very fast. I mean, our guys were, in 2 or 3 days, they were ready to go, when Canicol told me it might take 2 weeks. But because I have upgraded, I've got my 3600 that I'm willing to sell at an incredibly good price, just because I don't need it anymore. And a printer did me a really great favor by selling me my upgraded version, and he gave me a great price on it. And I'm going to return the favor to some lucky person who calls me up, because I'm telling you, I'm going to sell it for.
Don't even say if they want. You're making a great offer. By the way, I'm going to cut out this part of the podcast, and I'm going to put it up just as a clip unto itself. The podcast might go up in, I don't know, a couple of weeks, whatever. I'm going to try and pull this out sooner as a preview, because I'm sitting here smiling. I think that's an amazing offer, and I'm super loving the way you say you want to give back because you upgraded and someone did you a solid.
Yeah.
So, and anything you get for the machine is a bonus anyways, and anyone else could pick it up. So I have a question. Did Konica have someone special they wanted to entertain and put you in touch with? Because they've got a lot of people there, clients.
I mean, do they, what was your question again?
Did anyone from Konica think of anyone that they know who can use a beautiful offer and a deal from someone who's willing to give it back?
You know, I really haven't had that conversation with them, but I will tell you this. Konica brings printers to me on a very, very regular basis for me to tell them what I think of the machine, stuff like that. So I'm working with Konica and all their prospects.
Great.
You know, I think I did mention to them that I had this machine to sell, but I think honestly, these sales guys that work for Konica want to sell something that they have to sell. They're not they probably look at me as a competitor out there because I'm willing to sell something. But I'll say this: the 3 years we had that 3600, we learned a lot. And had we not had that as a starter, we would not be doing anywhere as near as well with the new machine as we would have been. So if nothing else, my advice to printers out there, you better dip your toe, at least get into some embellishments, because you're probably going to find yourself in a very difficult position competitive wise if you don't have it and your competition does.
Oh, I agree. And to the Konica salespeople, I just want to tell you, as a printer, it's not always about your commission, but if you brought me something like this with an offer that allowed me to learn at a fair, better price, and I mastered it, well, the upgrade after would be well worth your little time that you spend with us. I think some of these salespeople have to get off their, and I'm not just saying Konica, all of them need to get off their ass and not just look for that big payday. Because we as print salespeople, we're pounding the pavement all the time, doing what we have to. Jobs are small. We hope they get big. Like, the old days are over. So if you're a legend OEM salesperson, maybe you got to go onto AI and ask the question, how do I sharpen it up and make it better to compete with the younger folks on the street? Right?
Yeah. You know, that's good advice. But I do want to just say that as far as the Konica guys go, I've worked so closely with so many of them for so long now. They're a great bunch of guys, and you know, you're right. They should probably be thinking a little differently, but they're a good bunch of folks to work with.
By the way, just so that no one gets me wrong, there's a lot of amazing people to work with in the industry, but as a printer, I could only be concerned for my company because none of the people I dealt with had any skin in the game. And when I committed to something, I was in for years to come, no matter what. So my decisions stay with me forever. Their decisions don't affect them, what they, convinced me to do. So good people, but just have a little more empathy and thinking for your client, because it will go longer. How do you keep your customers for 10 and 20 and 30 years? You're honest with them, you work for them, you're straight, and you put in whatever time you have to make it right.
Absolutely.
Right. It's that simple. So what kind of samples would you tell us are you kind of doing to give to your customers? Because that's the other thing that a lot of printers don't do. I used to do it all the time, but is to keep those samples flowing, because you're showing them what you're doing, but subconsciously you're in front of them and they might not even think that you're there all the time because you're not asking them for quotes, but when something comes up, they think of you right away.
Yeah, I tell you, it's interesting. When we first got into the embellishments with the 3600, we didn't have the foil, we just had the varnish. And we got a bunch of photographs that came from MGI. And we just took their images and we just put them into our own, what we refer to as a lookbook, and we used that, and it looked really cool. But as I mentioned before, if I pull out my lookbook, and actually I've got one right here, you get you get pictures like this, all right? One, you can't really see the embellishments because, this varnish is at an angle. But I don't really print things like that for my customers. So yeah, this lends itself to embellishments, but it's not something we do. I don't print a whole lot of elephant pictures. Right. So what we're doing this time around is as I mentioned before, we're taking photographs, and AI gave us a lot of good advice. Like, we do a lot of high-end real estate brochures. Take maybe the edge of the building and have that be a silver foil on the edge. Take the windows where the sunlight is hitting the window, and use maybe gold foil there, but not on other parts. So we're looking at all these kind of photographs, and we're trying to come up with great pictures, but pictures that people will, might be printing. But Warren, here, let me tell you where I think this is going to go. Here's what I told my team, and I've got the guy that's running our MGI is also an artist, which is really important. And the guy that's training us is a guy that used to run the same machine at a printing company before he went to work for Kennickell. And what he told me he did is that he would be running jobs, and when he get to the end of the job, if he had leftover sheets, he would experiment. What if I do this? What if I do that? And he would do that, and he would do that, and then show it to the sales guy, who show it to the client. And sometimes the client would go, "Hey, I want to just reprint the job. I just want to reprint the job and have you do it with your with the way you did it right here." So there's an art to doing what you're doing. But here's where I think this is going to go, at least for 2026. I believe, and we have graphic designers that can do this stuff as well. I believe we're going to have clients. Hang on one second.
Somebody needs you.
Hey, I'm on a podcast. Can I call you back? Okay, thanks. Bye. Sorry about that.
All good.
But the way I think this is going to go is, I believe clients are going to say to us, quote this job with foil and with varnish, and then I would like for your team to tell us where the foil and where the varnish should go, and then show us a proof. Because we're going to get, I've said to my folks, we got to be the experts, the pros. We got to be so good at this that we can tell a customer, hey, why don't we add some varnish? And when I say varnish, what people need to understand is, with varnish or foil, it's not like on a printing press where the varnish is a solid or the foil is a solid. We're doing a poster for one of my clients, and it's got some vector art, and it's got pyramids in Egypt. We're taking areas, and instead of making it solid gold foil, we're taking the foil and we're doing it with a pattern of like sand. So now, on the top of this pyramid, instead of it just being a solid glob of gold, it is a textured area of gold. All right. And you got to learn how to do it. You got to learn how to make all these things happen. So we really feel that, until our clients learn how to use this, they're going to lean on us to show them what to do, and we got to be good at it. And I think we've been talking about this a lot. This is, as you can imagine, this is a really big topic in my company right now. We feel like when it's all said and done, we know that there's going to be 4 or 5 techniques that are always going to work. All right. And they're going to work on almost any type of a photograph. Well, any kind of a photograph with sky and ocean, you're probably going to default to a few things that always work. If it's trees, things like that, it could be others. We're trying to figure out what all those things are, but it's we just have to master this. And here's an epiphany I have, Warren, that really is a big difference between now and when I got the first MGI. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, when we got the MGI and the KM1, I focused on the KM1. That was where all the money was going. That was going to be a game changer, and it certainly was. But I didn't spend the time really understanding how to experiment and how to play around with the machine. I might have said to somebody, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Show it to me and get a chance. But this time around, I'm back there and we're experimenting and we're trying things and we're doing, I mean, it's to a point where I'm becoming, I believe, very much an expert in embellishments.
Well, I believe it.
And I think this, I'm a little disappointed that my salespeople haven't been back there the whole time as well, but
they got to sell.
They're busy. They're busy.
Okay, I'm happy you said that because they're doing well on their own. So
yeah. So what I do is I've been experimenting, and then I'm putting sheets on their desk, and I'm saying, look at this, look at that. But I would tell you, if you are a owner of a company and you're going to invest in this technology, I think it's imperative that you be the one to go back there, spend hours and hours learning what this thing can do, becoming an expert, and then I'll probably end up being a consultant for my sales team and for their customers. But I've been back there, and I tell you what, when this podcast is over, we had several jobs that we're printing right now. That some are live, some are not live. I can't wait to get back there because we've already talked about what we're going to do, and I can't wait to see if it's going to be as good as I thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah. So actually, you said you go back there a lot. You do some experimenting. You made a suggestion for every owner. I'm going to reiterate to every owner, you need to lead everything you do, not just the equipment, not just the embellishment, the marketing, the sales. If you're present, your team will follow. If you are not present, do not expect them to succeed without you. It's unfair of you to put that on them because they look up to you. I mean, when we used to install equipment, I was sitting down there all the time. I always had a blast. When we installed our 56-inch press, I was walking around. I was walking on this. I was walking on that. They were telling me, don't touch that. I was touching it. I mean, it was mine, but you didn't want to break anything. Yeah. So no, you have to. So question, when you're running people's jobs, are you experimenting on their jobs after so that you could then go back and show them different techniques that you did on the piece that you printed?
Did that on 3 pieces this morning.
Wow.
And they're going to say to me,
the customer after must be
blown away. These were live jobs. These were live jobs.
Ooh.
And there you are. You're back.
Yeah, we had a slight freeze.
Hey, this time it was your end that was freezing up, not mine.
I'll have to do a little editing after. Okay.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, so there were 3 live jobs, and we ran the jobs, and we're delivering them the way they were supposed to be done. All right, but we kept copies, and one of them was one was a Christmas tree, an abstract Christmas tree that had some ornaments and stuff, and we played around with that for a long time because less is more in embellishments, and the first things we tried didn't look that good. But what's going to happen is we're going to deliver these samples with the job. And they're going to say, why didn't you tell us you could do this? And we're going to say, hey, we didn't run a live job until yesterday. So, we're still, in fact, we're finalizing our estimating system on foil right now. And so we really weren't in a position to sell it, but now we are.
Yeah.
Warren, you need to upgrade your computer.
I don't know what it is, but I think it records in Riverside anyways. So offline and then it puts together. So we'll check it out. But
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, lots of opportunity, and for customers, I think it's the best way for them to see. And what a great response. Well, we didn't know because we just tested it when we saw your design, but which
Yeah,
means that hopefully the next time they're working with designers, they're going to call you and say, "Hey, could we look and discuss? How far can we take this?"
yeah,
Wow, wow,
yeah.
man, it's so
And I tell
exciting.
you
Yeah.
what we know today, hopefully, will be a fraction of what we know this time next week. I mean,
Oh,
we are so back into this thing, trying to really understand it. That is, I sit here right now thinking, hey, I got a pretty good handle on this, and I bet you in a month I'll go, boy, you really did have a good handle, but nothing like what you got right now. And
well,
we're
that's
we're, we're
happening.
going to be masters.
That's happening to you guys every step of the way, every day from the minute you started with the 3600,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, let me go back to one thing you said, Warren, because I want to give you an example of why it's so true. When you talk about how the owner has to be taking the lead, many years ago, back in the mid to late '90s, uh, we were trying to become as good a company as we could possibly be. I had a consultant I was working with. This is back when everybody was talking about total quality management,
Mm.
TQM. Well, this guy, after I talked to him, he actually, this guy had worked. He had hired Edwards Deming as a consultant for him when he was at Kimberly Clark. So he told me, I think we should do ISO 9000 because it's something that, unlike TQM, which was just a broad thing, ISO was something you could identify and do. Well, I led the charge on that and was in there deep, and it worked great for us. In fact, it was the biggest competitive advantage I did, up until that point in my career. I mean, we really all of a sudden were significantly better than the competition. But I decided I was going to help other printers, and since I had already written my team had already created all the documents, the procedures, everything that a printing company could take a look at that, and they could probably get pretty good pretty quick. So I actually consulted for a while doing this. And I did 3 consulting jobs, and in all 3 of them, the owner was nowhere to be seen. They had me passed off to a plant manager. And the plant manager, when he was trying to make people change, they're looking at him like, I'm not doing that. The owner, they can't say that to the owner. But I will tell you that all 3 of those people attempting to put ISO 9000 in by not being involved themselves, the owner wasn't involved. He was just going to hand it off. It was all, they all failed. And I got to a point where I said, look, if you're not going to be involved, I'm not going to waste my time even going to see you. So never underestimate the power of the guy who's the owner or whoever the president is. That guy has to be the one saying, this is important. We're going to master this. Because remember, people don't really like change. They prefer not to change. They prefer not to have to learn something new. And so if you're not all in, you're as the owner, don't expect your other people to be all in.
I've been saying that for 20 years when I've been watching, different meetings go on in different places. I'm actually helping somebody out now because they've got a product that's really good for some certain print companies, and great ROI. And I won't get into whatever it is. And he asked if I would help, and I said sure. I am only calling owners, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because I start at the top. Now, if the owner, after I explain what it is, wants to send me to his general manager, vice president, whatever, no problem. But I'm there to discuss money and savings with him. And if the guy doesn't want to talk to me, I don't feel I should be talking to the person below about big dollars and savings, because down below they don't think about money the same way.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and that's why you are the owner, to be in charge. So you should definitely start everything. And being the owner, you have the opportunity to pass it down once you're good with it.
Another thing that I think is important for owners to be able to do is to be able to sell. I was in a peer group with a lot of printers, and there was a couple of guys that really didn't like to sell and weren't very good at it. And they didn't do anywhere near as well as the rest of us. Because if you can't sell your way out of a problem, then and you got to depend on somebody else to do that, then I think you're in a precarious position. And I'll tell you, the guys that were doing in my peer groups that couldn't sell, didn't want to deal with customers, those companies, they either eventually went out of business or they sold and
or their margins were. Listen, if you're an owner and you're not into selling, and that's cool because maybe you've done it earlier and you've got to the point, but if you're an owner, you need a multi-level sell. You need to go with your salespeople to all your biggest clients and make sure that they know you. And when you're there, you got to make sure you know the person above the person you're dealing with, because owner to owner is a different kind of conversation. If anything happens down the road where the person that you're dealing with leaves, as the owner, you get the call above and speak to someone. And when above puts you in touch with someone, the person they're putting in touch with, the person that they're putting in touch with you, or the replacement, isn't going to be so quick to go out and try and bring in their own people when it's coming from the top, like the owner.
Yeah.
It's a psychological game. It's a knowing. The other thing is, if you're an owner, you got to go visit your customers because you want to know what your salespeople are doing. You'll be surprised how many of your salespeople aren't selling all the services that you have. But anyways, I'm not here to go south on this episode. But it's just important for, if you're an owner and you're not a 500 person company, you got to be involved.
Yeah. Hey, let me share one other thing, because this was a really eye-opening thing for a lot of people in my peer group. So I came along in this business. I started out in sales. I've never run a piece of paper through a printing press. I don't know how to put a plate on a press. I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
Me neither.
Okay. But I was a sales guy. And when I joined the company was very much production driven, where if you asked, hey, how fast can I get this turned around? It was always 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, what is this? If I get this done quick, I can win a new client. But there's some companies that production runs it, and they view salespeople as sort of a pain in the neck. All right. There's other companies that sales runs the company and production must go along. So when I was in a peer group with we had like 12 guys, and one of the guys was really, really smart, and he ended up selling his business for a tremendous amount of money. And he was like E.F. Hutton. Whenever he spoke at the peer meeting, I always listened because there was something good he was going to say. But one thing he did, and as you know, in peer groups, everybody shares their P&Ls and things like that. He went around the room and he said, I want you to tell me, do you think you are a sales-driven or a production-driven company? And we all went around the room. And then he said, because everybody knows what everybody else was doing profit and loss-wise, he said, did anybody notice that all the sales-driven companies are making significantly more money than the production-driven companies?
Interesting.
And honestly, we had never really had that conversation, but it was a fact. There was 4 or 5 of us that were totally sales-driven, and we were making, 2 or 3 times the profit percentage that the other guys were, and they just had the wrong attitude, and I ended up having to basically fire a lot of my production folks who just couldn't buy into sales runs the show.
Legends in their own mind, stuck in their old ways. It's a new world.
Yeah.
Listen,
I mean, I remember having a conversation with a guy who's still with me today, and he's good, but, he was giving salespeople a hard time, when they were trying to get stuff done. And finally, I went to the guy and I said, look, you need to understand something. Sales runs the show here, and you're becoming quite an impediment to sales. So either you're going to get on board or you got to leave, but you're not going to be able to stay here if your job is to put salespeople in their place. And he got over that quick. In fact, it was interesting. We were doing a big job. We have a production meeting in the morning, and we were doing this client of ours. I said in the meeting, hey, this customer wants, it was a big customer, that they need to have, we're going to print 15,000 24-page, 8.5 by 11 magazines for them. We're going to get the files on Tuesday. We got to deliver at least 5,000 on Friday. And this guy was shaking his head. And I said, hey, I see you're shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head? He said, I think they're taking advantage of us. I said, really? How are they taking advantage of us? He said, nobody else would do this for them. I said, nobody else would do it? He goes, nobody else would do that. I said, okay, well, who are we bidding against? We weren't bidding against anybody. You don't have to, if you're doing stuff where you're always putting the customer first, you don't have to be the cheapest guy out there. You know, people are going to pay more if they know you're always going to come through, and if they ask for what some people might consider a ridiculous turnaround. Yeah, they're right. Exactly.
Wow.
So that was a learning lesson for some of the other people in that production meeting.
And it's funny because I always say to people, I go, so let me ask you, if you were the buyer or you go into a store and you want something, would you accept that answer? Oh, absolutely not. I go, so then why do you think someone else should?
Yeah.
Right? It's always, I mean, it's the old cliche, treat people the way you want to be treated. Doesn't matter what you do. Listen, you do that with the manufacturers. You don't beat them and haggle them to death because you value everything else they do. And if they're listening, that doesn't mean you could raise his price either. Right?
That's right.
Wow. All right. Oh my God. Like this time just flew by. And I think I spoke like maybe 11% of the time, which would be a record in itself. But
well, I did ramble a little bit.
No, you know what? It was all good. Many, many nuggets for anyone who's listening. So if you listen to the end, you got it all. If you listen to parts of it, you'll only get some of it. I recommend you listen to it all. Yeah, we're going to do this again because you are the hardest working man in print that I know today.
Well, I'm having fun. I wouldn't be coming in on Saturdays if when I came in on Saturdays, nothing good happened. It's always something great happens, and I'm just can't wait for Monday.
Yeah, no, I love it. So, wow. So, any final words before we call it a wrap?
You know, I think that if you're a printer out there, I wish for you that you can get into some new technology or some new equipment or something new to where you can be excited to get up in the morning and go to work, and you can't wait till next week, and you can't wait till the week after that. It's a great place to be in business where you're excited, you're having fun, and you need to do whatever you can to get yourself in that position.
Wow. Oh man, your excitement is like, I'm thinking, what do I want to do now? I want to keep it going.
Hey, by the way, I'll say this too. If anybody out there wants to get into this kind of stuff and embellishments, whatever, and wants to pick up the phone and give me a call, I'll talk to anybody. We're all printers. We're all in this together. You know, I like to help out anybody I can.
Kudos to you, because we don't have enough people like that willing to do that. So well done. All right. So again, thank you so much for this wealth of information. We will continue to tap your brain for more information as you go, because I think it's really good, and we need more people that are open like that within the industry. To everybody listening, if you didn't make it to the end of this one, your loss. If you made it to the end, go tell people that are into embellishment and learning and AI that they should listen to this one, because Al just has so much stuff that's all good, and tips that you could pick up and things you should do. For everybody else, again, you want to be on the show, let me know. If you've got something you want to know about, let me know. I'll find out, I'll research it, I'll do it. For all the printers out there, all you need to know is I am here for you. I am you, I am part of you, and I am here to watch what you do to help you minimize the mistakes that you make and, make some more money, because we got to up the percentages that we make in this industry. With that, I'm going to check out. Warren Werbitt, printing's alive. I love print and look forward to seeing everybody next time. Thanks, Al.